Karla, thank you so much for coming on today. Can I just tell you, I have stalked you for years. So having you on my podcast is like a yes moment. I'm
That's
so excited.
amazing. I'm like excited. I'm like, wow, she stalked me. If it was like a 50-year-old man, that would totally scare me. But I love this, Deanna. I love you, and I love your podcast, and I'm so glad that we connected. So thank you for having
Yes, I am too. I am too. So thank you. This is going to be great. I'm so excited to talk to you. We're going to be talking about courage, right? So this is a really, really cool topic. And I think something that everybody can really benefit from because there's always those moments where we need to find that courage and kind of figure things out. And that's a really scary thing. But before we dive into that, I want to say congratulations on your new baby.
you.
I mean, he is just adorable. And I just love the mama in you that comes out in all your Instagram posts.
Thank you. I love being a mom, and he's really taught me to just like slow down, to enjoy the now, and then also to just like continuously challenge myself to work through fears because I want him to see like the most confident, courageous mom. So I appreciate you. Share
Oh,
that.
that is, I love that. I love hearing that. You know, my boys are in their 20s now. And when I think back, like it's almost like I hear you saying that. And I remember going through something similar with them, although it was a crazy wild road. And that's a whole other podcast. But, you know, and now I look at the men that they are now. And I'm like, I'm almost like, I don't want to speed it up for you, but it's so cool to see the man that he's going to become and knowing like you've poured your whole heart and soul into him. So I'm
Oh,
just, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
thank you. No, I look forward to that
You-
time.
oh, it's really neat. Being a mom is like the best job ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely
So
hard, but it's worth it.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, becoming a mom for the very first time is definitely life changing. I think anybody who's gone through this can vouch that it really is a life changing chapter in our lives. But I've kind of feel like I've noticed something in on your Instagram. So, like a shift of some sort. Am I reading that right? Has becoming a mom like influenced some things inside of you? Has it changed some things?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I always wanted to be a mom, but I'm also a go-getter, and I'm someone who like pivots and has ideas and wants to pursue them. And I'm also someone who's just very individual. Like I love doing like I almost joke around that I like to be like a loner at times. Like I love having friends, but I love being by myself. And now having a kid, you have to think about your baby. You have to put your family first. And it's easy for me to do, but also I've noticed that I'm like, when I have an idea, I think it through more because now I have to think about him. I'm currently like a stay at home mom, work from home mom, building my business, and I do believe in doing it all, but I believe in like doing what's right for you, doing what you need to do for you, not what, oh, well, Becky or Tiffany does it, so I can too, because her life could look different, right? I'm just naming random people online. I don't even know Becky or Tiffany, but
Yeah.
I'm doing what's like right, important to you and what you need to do for your family. And so, yeah, at the beginning of the year, I only had taken 3 months of maternity leave. Well, four total, like, because I took a month before he came. And then after the 3 months, I like jumped in and I was like ready to go back into consulting and coaching. So I do personal growth coaching for women, but then I was also doing like business consulting for like a nonprofit, helping small business owners with their business. And I remember when I jumped in, I got my like client roster list that I had. I reached out to them, and there was like 20 clients for consulting at the time, and they were all one-on-one. Some of them showed up, some of them didn't to the call, and I realized like, whoa, I can't do this. Like, and maybe I can, but I don't want to. And knowing the difference was so important for me. Like, yeah, maybe I can do it, but I don't want to be hopping on like 7 calls a week on one, even though I love one-on-one. Like that is where like I didn't start coaching because it sounded fun. Like I genuinely love having one-on-one conversations with people. I'm the person who my friends like, hey, can I invite so and so for coffee? And I'm like, no, like I wanted one-on-one time with you. Like I just love one-on-one conversations. And so one-on-one coaching always just seemed like the perfect fit for me, and I enjoyed it. And I still do it, but now I'm mindful. I'm like, okay, I only want to work with like 2, maybe 3 clients a month. Like I don't want a 20 list of like consulting and coaching clients. And it was really hard to let go of that because I felt like, I was failing, and it was like, well, I need this. I need my business to grow. I need to have clients coming in. And the first month right from maternity leave, I just had to let go of those opportunities, like through the consulting side of my business, and just kind of like wrap things up, offer them Voxer coaching if that's what they wanted, and being okay with that. But it was really hard because I was like, I need this. Like, I need this. And also, like, what now? Right? Like, what am I going to do now?
Right.
Because one on one coaching is like, I hadn't done course creation. Like, I don't have group coaching program. I'm building those things. But yeah, it required just listening to what I wanted, which sometimes it's hard for us to do because there's so much noise out there.
It's really hard to do. And
Yeah.
going through that process of having that, you've done this one-on-one coaching, you've had all these clients, and now you're thinking, okay, I don't really want that anymore. Like I want to kind of shift a little bit because I've got this new beautiful family and I want to spend time with my family. And so I want to kind of pull back a little, still pour into people, but pull back how I'm pouring into people. And that's really scary to do because you're like, I know for me, I can't tell you how you were feeling, but for me, I would think like, oh no, what if I lose everything? What if, doing what I've been doing for a long time is comfortable.
Mm.
I'm familiar with it, right? You get into that. I know this, I can do this blindfolded. And now you're talking about shifting gears, and that could be really scary. So, how did you do that? Because I feel like, and I think you've mentioned this before, like we do kind of get stuck because we want to stay in what's familiar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, why does that
Yeah.
happen? How do you break out of that? I asked you
Well,
two questions at once, so
no, that's fine. Well, I call that like the comfort loop. It's like the spiral of just staying comfortable in what you've known. And so when that happened to me, because I'm like, I literally last year, so prior to being, I mean, I've been doing coaching since 2020, but I went full force into coaching last year when I got pregnant. Because prior to that, I was running a social media management freelance business since 2018. So I've been doing it for over 6 years. And that was my like, I knew I could make money from social media management. Like anywhere I went, I didn't even have to promote that business. I never really had like an Instagram for it. I think I did it like my last year, and then I ended up shutting it down. But like that was what I was comfortable with. It came natural to me. That's what I had done in my full-time like corporate job. And so then to really go into full force into coaching, I was like, well, what if I don't make enough money? Or like, what if I don't like it anymore? Or what if I'm positioning myself as a coach? And then I realized like, I don't want to do that. And like, all these things came up for me, but I knew it was this like comfort loop. And it wasn't until I personally worked with a coach that she was just like, you're getting stuck in what you know because it's worked and you're afraid of the unknown, right? And so when I identified that I was in this comfort loop, I had to ask myself like, what habits and roles and job titles and environments do I just stay in because they feel familiar, and like what payoff am I going to get from staying here? Like, is it approval, like safety, predictability? And then also, who am I trying to protect? And that for me as a new mom was like my family, right? Like, I didn't want my husband to take on like the full responsibility, which is something that's so hard, I think, to say online when you're like, yeah, I needed the support of my husband last year to really build my coaching business again and pour into it and rebuild parts of my one-on-one coaching, add on things. And then to now be in another pivot where, yeah, I'm doing one-on-one coaching, but I'm also building courses and just showing up differently online and like being more intentional, which I've always been an intentional person, but now I'm like really asking myself, like, what would I choose if I didn't need to play it safe? That's like a big question I had to ask myself. Like, what what would I choose, right? Like if the guilt wasn't there, if the fear wasn't there, if the what ifs, like what are people going to think wasn't there, like what would I choose? And for me, it landed on like, I would create content that like helped women step into their courage, who like I would give free resources for women to like know how to tap into their emotions and personal growth. Like I would have fun doing that. And when the word fun appeared for me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to get out of this comfort loop, because if I don't, I'm just going to resent myself. My confidence is also going to diminish, because when you have something that you want to do and you're not doing it, it's just like the voice within you is just like, there's been times where I felt like I'm a loser for not going out. And that's like hard to admit, but I have had moments, even in my most confident days, where I've said that to myself, and I've had to like rewrite that story and be like, no, you don't want to say I am, insert horrible thing that you say about yourself, right? And instead being like, okay, who would the most confident, courageous version of me, how would she show up? Who would she be? And really start living with that in mind, with that person in mind. And it does require you getting out of that comfort loop and finding the path that's going to work for you in whatever season you are. And it's okay to pivot, and it's going to look like a tree branch. Like I used to say before I became a personal growth and courage coach, I was just like a young content creator who loved creating content, and I had so much fun doing it. And I would tell my audience, like, branch out and let go of fears. Like that, well, we can talk a little bit after that, but I was a YouTuber, and I remember always going in front of the camera and just being like, branch out and let go of fears. And at the time I didn't know what that meant, but now looking back at that old version of myself, it was just like not being afraid to pick a path, and not being afraid that that path may change and that I might grow different branches, right? And being okay with it, like not putting yourself in a box. And in order to break out of that box, you really do have to get out of that comfortable state that you're in.
I love so many pieces of what you just shared, right? And I think because I told you before, I am the pivot queen. I'm always like, okay. And I don't know if I pivot because of timing, or if maybe I get an idea and I run with it too quick, right? And maybe it's a combination of both of them. But I love hearing about, like the tree branch, right? Because I get that. I can relate to that. I completely. So when you were talking about thinking about doing this change, right? And you made it sound super easy. So this may be a really silly question. And you said something about, if fear wasn't an issue, what would you do? And you came up with some ideas, but how did you actually do that? Because I know sometimes there's so much chatter in my head about figuring it out, and I know like you can be so easily influenced. Like, did you just like block out time? Did you do a brain dump? Did you, give yourself a quiz? How did you figure it out? That's what you wanted.
Yeah. Funny enough, as someone who's a journaler, I would be lying and like if I told you right now, like, oh, I just journaled my thoughts. No, like I for a long time avoided journaling. But actually during my well, I guess depending on what side of what part of my story. So last year, one of the biggest like fears that was showing up for me was just motherhood in general. Like I wanted to start a family, but there was this narrative in my mind that was saying, if you have a baby right now, like you're not going to be able to work on your business. Your business is still not in a place where like, I've like scaled it because I was doing the one-on-one. So like, how are you going to do this? And so a lot of emotions were showing up, right? Like, well, besides fear, like I guess there was a sense of like guilt, of like letting go of my first business to pursue coaching. And at first I wasn't sitting with myself. Like I wasn't journaling. I was ignoring that voice within me that was telling me like, take time to just sit down. Like for me, I was looking for like outside noise, ChatGPT, like coaches, asking my husband for opinion about what I think I want, and him being like, I support you, do what you need to do. Right. It was very noisy. And it wasn't until I actually sat down with my emotions and felt them, and really the way that I did that, I was doing hypnobirthing at the time. And I was doing hypnobirthing because I ended up getting pregnant and I wanted to do that. But even before I got pregnant, I knew that there was a fear. And I'm very specific when I'm going for a goal. Like I don't just like I was like I need a birth course on fear. So I specifically did that. But what was showing up for me was other things like, letting go of my social media management, pursuing coaching full time, creating things that I wanted to build in my business. What was showing up for me was like guilt, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, overwhelm. And I had to like really feel those feelings and then release them by creating new stories. So I use a technique called mental and emotional release in my one-on-one coaching. It's like a timeline therapy that asks your subconscious mind, like, are you ready to let go of like this story? And you find the root of where that story came from. And usually it's connected to an old event, but it could have happened when you were like 20 or 7, but then you connect new stories to it, right? So if like my business didn't do well, it's because there was a story that was coming up. Or if I was afraid of starting my coaching business, there was this fear of like, what if it doesn't do well and I let go of my first business, right? And oftentimes the stories that were showing up was like how usually I was a jack of all trades, or I would quit things, or like I wasn't really good at one thing and I never found like the thing that I was really good at, which was such a lie because like I'm a good storyteller, I'm creative, I'm a people person. There's so many skills that I have. But there was these lies that were showing up, and I didn't know that. And so I had to do that inner work. And I specifically use tools like hypnosis and mental and emotional release to ask me like, where are these stories coming from, and being okay to release them. Because oftentimes I know with like some of my clients, shame is a big one. And that's like a really hard emotion to let go of. And it requires you being ready to like, to be honest with yourself and to like sit with yourself and process those emotions like on a deeper level. So that's like how I did it. But it also required me like, then I journaled, and it was an everyday thing after I got pregnant. Well, after my baby was born, I was like journaling every single day to see what was showing up for me. But the biggest ones for me were just like being okay with like tapping into my mind and to the parts that we fill up with the conscious. Like we're just like, oh, I'm afraid of I'm afraid of pregnancy. And then you do all the things. And I was doing all the things. I was like, oh, I need to eat healthier and I need to do this and I need to do that. But the best thing that I could have done for myself was like actually sitting with like visualizing myself becoming a mom and visualizing how I would work through overwhelm and how I would work through anxiety and the challenges that could arise, right? When I tapped into those hard spaces that showed up in my head, that's when I was able to like let go of those fears and being like, okay, I am ready to become a mom. Let's start a family. Or, okay, I don't want to do the social media management business anymore. Like I'm going to go all in on coaching. Right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't easy, but when I was ready to create the change, it was instant. It happened in like days versus years.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's great. And I am a huge fan of visual imagery. So that's a whole conversation. Like, I love that. So once you're like, okay, I'm ready. I've done the work. I figured out what I want to do. It's time to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what happens? I mean, is it like a stop and go? Sometimes I feel like this, right? Like it's a stop and go to me. Like I'm ready to do it. Then it's like, no, maybe I'm not. Yes, I'm ready. That imposter syndrome kicks my butt. I guess that's what I'm saying, right? Like
Yeah.
how do you push through it and just decide you're going to pivot?
Yeah. Well, I
Or
mean, for me, the number one was like noticing the fear. Once I like, because accepting your truth, right? And sometimes your truth is not empowering right away. Like sometimes your truth, like how I mentioned earlier when I was like saying I was going to do something, for example, like I for 6 years had been wanting to build a course and I just never did it. And there was other reasons why, like I did one-on-one coaching and all of that. But then suddenly when I became a mom and I was like, I want to serve more people, not just one-on-one. And if I have courses and group programs, like I'm going to be able to do that. But oftentimes like what was showing up there was like, what if I can't do it? Like, what if I can't build transformations for people in a group level? What if I'm only good for one-on-one, right? Those type of things, like being afraid to observe the fear and then anchor your purpose, like knowing why you're doing it, right? And so for me, I realized like I need to help more people because I've been in places where I don't know what to do and I feel so afraid and I feel like I have to get all the advice and information from other people, one-on-one coaches. Even though I'm a coach, like sometimes there's moments for that, right? And so I had to be like, what is my purpose, for example, for this, like creating a course, right? It's to help more people, and I want to do this because I also want to be able to have more time with my family. Like that is my purpose. Like I need to create this because it matters for myself and for other people. And then ask yourself, like, what do you believe is possible for you, and observe what comes up. Like notice what emotions show up. Notice, like, if you're like, I feel like I'll be overwhelmed, like for example, coaching many people, or I feel overwhelmed in becoming a mom or whatever, like observe that. And then I always like to just like role play with myself in my mind of like either visualizing like myself already doing that, right? Visualizing myself already having like a group coaching program and or a course. And that's actually funny enough because I'm like, I hate admitting this because I'm launching my course soon, and but like I just because I guide women on letting go of their fears on a subconscious level does not mean I'm like exempted from fear. And so for like building a course, for me, it's like once I put something out there, like I can't mess up. Like right now I'm on this podcast, there's been moments like I've stumbled in my words and I'm like, oh, I could fix it, or I could use my personality, or I could like, use parts of like, or I could just fix it, like whatever, show that human side of me. But when you record something, for example, like a course, it's like, it's going to sit there forever, right? And so I visualized myself like having the course done. How would that feel? I visualized myself having the baby. How would that feel? Right. Or going through labor and delivery, which was what I was specifically afraid of.
Yeah.
Or what would it feel like if I let go of my social media business and I stepped into being a coach, right? And so I pick a specific scenario, right? So when I'm like delivering my baby and ask myself, what feelings do I want to feel? Right. It's not going to be overwhelm. It's going to be peace. It's going to be love. It's going to be joy. It's going to be strength. It's going to be courage. Like when I rooted myself in those feelings, like first picking a specific scenario, because it could be hard to visualize. And I know that some people have difficulties with visualization. They're like, okay, what am I going to imagine myself as? Right. But if you pick a specific scenario and ask yourself, what is it that I want to feel? Instead of focusing on I don't want to feel overwhelmed. I don't want to feel anger. Or if you focus on like the disempowered language, you're gonna feel that, right? And actually, so I forget what the question was, but it's like really for me, it's like role playing. I see it as like role playing when people are like, oh, visualizing, like just role play with yourself and ask yourself, like, what would it feel like if I did the thing that I wanted to do? Right. And what feelings do I want to feel in that moment? And it actually takes me back. Last year I did something, and maybe the listeners listening to this, some of them have done it, but I don't know what it's called, but it's like an ice challenge to feel the pain when you're like pregnant. So how do I explain it? It's hypnosis technically. It's like training your mind.
Okay,
But
I'm like, wait, what?
so I was so afraid of the pain, like in pain, delivery, right? Like in, what is it called? Birth and delivery. I was so afraid of that.
Right.
And not only did I role play of like the visualization of like, how do I want to feel? Like I remember like meeting my baby and like telling him he was worth it. And that actually happened when they put him in my arms. Like I remember the first thing that I told him was like, you were worth it, my love. And so to like having done that every day, visualizing what it is that I wanted and how I wanted to feel, to actually feel that during my delivery, which was a hard delivery, but we made it through. I remember what helped me physically was also grabbing some ice in my hands and feeling the like pain of the ice and breathing through it and imagining myself having my baby while I was holding like the ice. I forget what it's called, but it's just like hypnosis. It's tricking your mind into feeling what it is that you want to feel. And the more that like, so this is the point, when you're holding the ice, if you focus on like, this is so cold, oh my god, this is so hard, this, like, I can't do this, I can't, it's gonna feel cold. And I remember I had my husband do it, and he was like, this is so hard when you're focused on everything that you don't want, right, to feel. But when you visualize, when we put the ice in our hands and we visualize ourselves, like, first off, we had to breathe through it. But then when I visualize like a sunny day and like, oh my God, it's so hot and I'm by the beach and I'm playing in the lake and like, or whatever scenario or role I wanted to take on. And like, this is so easy. And when I like actually felt the things that I wanted to feel, I feel peaceful. The 2 minutes that we were holding ice just felt so much easier. And that was like that was the first time I did that work like on a physical level. But it just reminded me of the work that I do, like when we are reprogramming our subconscious mind and when we're like noticing the fears that show up. If you're constantly like, I feel like I'm going to fail, I feel like I'm going to fail, then you're never going to do the thing, or you're going to fail because you're never even going to try. You never even tried, right? But if you're focused on how I was this week as I was building my course, I had told myself I'm like launching the end of May. It's like the first course that I've put out there, self-paced course. And the only way that I like got through it to like film all my curriculum is because I kept imagining myself like the modules being done and like me being able to talk about it. And then what would happen now that I'm done with my course, I can move on to the thing that I want to create, which is like YouTube content again. And I actually have a place to land people in. Because funny enough, so I used to be a YouTuber, and the first time that I got a role as a public speaker, I got flown out to Mexico and I got to speak on a stage. It was like a mini keynote. I think there was maybe like 100 people. And I remember when I finished my speech and people came up to me and they asked me, how could I work with you? I had nowhere to get them to land, not like a freebie, not a course, nothing. Because I was like, oh, I just do this for fun. And I never wanted to feel that again. Like I wanted to have I want to have a business where people can easily jump into the things that I create and that they can change their life with the tools that I have, right? And so I imagined that again when I was creating this course. It's like, I'm finally going to have something that it's not just like, oh, you can work one-on-one with me, but it's like, I'm going to have the courses. And now that I finished this course, I'm like, I'm ready for my next one. And it feels fun and easier because I was imagining myself like on stage again. And when someone said like, hey, can I work with you? And I'm like, oh yeah, one-on-one. They're like, oh, well, like, do you have like a self-paced course or videos that I could watch? I'm like, yes, go and watch it, right? So I was imagining those scenarios, and it's like, now I have that. Now I have a business that I'm like excited about now because it doesn't require all of me and like on a one-on-one level. But yeah, it was just like, I've been doing these like mind tricks, like role playing of the situation I actually want to be in.
I just have to drive home your point because I have a similar situation, similar story to you. I was terrified to give birth to my first son, and I got through it. It wasn't terrible. Well, my second son came along and it was awful. Like labor hit completely different. Where I'd been in labor all day with my first son, I was in a very quick labor. So contractions weren't just gradually building up to it. They came hard and strong all at once. And he was pushing on his umbilical cord. They had me flipped upside down. It was all this total craziness. Now, I'm going to back it up a second. When I graduated college, my degree is in psychology. And before I graduated, we had to do some sort of a research study. So I did visual imagery and how it was used in sports. So I had to actually do the study and then do research on it. And the research that I found was incredible. In fact, I didn't believe it at first, but then I found study after study after study and realized visual imagery works. But I really just wanted to graduate. So I got it done, got the grade, done, right? Filed it way, way back. Fast forward again, I'm in the delivery room in tremendous amount of pain. Did not want any drugs because it just didn't work the first time and it was awful. So sitting there, and the idea of visual imagery came to mind. So I pictured the beach and I pictured what it felt like with the sand on my feet, the smell. I was listening for the waves. Like I got as detailed as I could. And I remember hearing my then husband say, getting angry with the doctor that she didn't want drugs. She said no drugs. And they're like, we didn't give her drugs, but he's watching the contractions on the screen, and I am
Oh, wow.
peaceful and felt nothing until it was time to push. So I'm sharing that story just to kind of, because it aligns with your story too.
Yeah,
And
100%.
the mind is so powerful. It is so powerful. So I love that you're talking about all this visual work that you're doing. So,
Yeah.
during these pivoting times. And I don't know if I ever thought about it during some of the pivoting times. Like, why don't you pull them back to like what you know in this visual imagery? So it's so
Yeah.
cool to hear you share that.
No, thank you for sharing that. No, visual imagery has been huge for me. Like, I didn't realize it because I am someone who is a feeler and like I journaled and stuff. But it wasn't until I sat with like first up my emotions, because you did ask like, how did you go from like fearing to then doing the thing? It is like
Yeah.
sitting first off like with the uncomfortable truth, like asking yourself about like, what is my truth? Like the truth that I don't want to admit right now to myself, like what is it, right?
Yeah.
And when you're honest with yourself, then you're able to ask, okay, what is it that I want? Um
Hmm.
and oftentimes, like, I do encourage my clients always to speak in a way that is it like, what is it that you want? But sometimes we're not there. Sometimes we're in a place where it's like we're looking for, like, for the constant problems. I don't want this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be this person. I don't want them to think this about me, whatever. And then it's like, okay, are you done with like sharing this truth? Which oftentimes are like limiting thoughts and stories that we tell ourselves.
Hmm.
But it does feel like our truth, and like sitting with that right now and then being like, okay, like, is that what you want? Is that what you believe about yourself? No. Okay, let's like, what do we need to do to move forward? And visual
Hmm.
imagery has been so powerful for me in these moments. And it's funny because like for birth, I really leaned in on that, and I think it became so automatic that until I shared it with you on this podcast, I was like, oh my God, that's what I did with my course. Because it took me like 6 years to finally release something that I'm very excited about. It's a course on like courage. And so it's everything that I'm still dealing with, right? To build that self-trust, and then to have done it in like a month, like when my husband was like on maternity leave, and just even it's work that I've been doing throughout the year, but to actually like complete it and make it, available, like I'm like, oh, I did that in a month, and it was through visual imagery. It was just like sitting there every time I felt overwhelmed, or every time I'm like, oh, I have to record these MP3 files and I have to like write the curriculum, and then you started getting overwhelmed because you started second guessing yourself, and then it's just like, okay, who is the person that creates this course? Like, how does she get through it? Right. And
Hmm.
yeah, every step that I did was, I mean, it did require sitting with the hard emotions, but also being able to visualize what was on the other side, and like, who is, what identity, what identity do I want to walk in? Right. Like, who am I? I'm
Hmm.
someone who, um, creates with ease. I'm someone who processes and prepares. Like, that's a huge thing too, like asking myself, how do I, because what I really wanted was peace. Like, when I came and spoke about, like, to myself, like, what is my truth, what is it that I want, I'm like, I want to feel at peace. Like, I don't want to feel overwhelmed, but I want the peace. And in order to find that peace, I needed to prepare my mind. I needed to prepare physically the things that I wanted to create in my life. And I needed to like prepare my heart, like really pour into myself. And so being prepared has led to peace, and doing the things, when I say prepared, being prepared, it's like actually doing the things that I say I'm going to do, has led me to feel that peace. And yeah, it's been a journey, honestly. I think I'm still going through it as we speak.
Do we ever stop going through it though, on some level?
Yeah, no, because then it's like, what's next,
Right,
But
that's what I mean.
I am in a place in my life, instead of like, and I feel like that is where sometimes the fears show up, or the overwhelm, or whatever feeling that prevents us from showing up as the person that we want to be. It's like we jump into what's next, and we don't celebrate what's like in our present now. Um,
Yeah.
so going back to like motherhood, I have been in a place where I'm like, my baby is about 7 months now, but you know, I'm like, he's still new. He's still new to me. Like, I'm still gonna like sulk in all the love and the cuddles and like being married. Like, I'm a newlywed. I've been married for like a year and a half now, but I'm like, I'm still soaking in that I'm a newlywed. Like, I don't want to just constantly be moving. I want to celebrate. I want to celebrate like the life
Yeah.
that I have now. Um, so I feel like just because we're constantly moving, like more fears or overwhelm or emotions show up, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it could feel heavy, but when you're in a place of like, this is who I am, this is what I wanted, this is what I'm rooted in, this is what I'm working in, it feels so much more calm and peace and exciting because you're not just like, you know, moving on to the next thing, which is like when we talk about pivots, it's okay to pivot, but I always ask myself, like, am I pivoting with purpose or am I pivoting just because doubt is coming in or fear is coming in? And I'm like,
Mhm.
because like
That's
right now, you
good.
know, I've been talking about like this course that I've been building. That was like my baby. That was the biggest thing that I had been working on while like being on maternity leave. And it's like, okay, when I release it, what now? Because there's going to be a new fear, and I know it. It's going to be selling it. It's going to be showing up on stories.
Yes.
It's going to be showing up on my YouTube channel or whatever, and being like, oh, and by the way, if you're interested, like click on the link in my bio, question mark. Like, you know, if I sell my course in that way, then it's, you know, that fear, right, of like selling or that fear
Right.
of showing up as too much or that fear of like being salesy, whatever comes up, I know that those fears are there. But if I again visualize myself in the way that I want to show up, right? Like I'm actually really excited because this is like something that helped me and like resources I wish I had and all of that. Like it's going to feel more exciting, right? But yeah, there's always a new fear that shows up, but when we know that, when we like prepare for it, we're just like, you're not going to get on the way this time.
Yeah, I can relate to that. So, when you're going through all this, right, and you get emotionally honest with yourself about what it is that you want to do, you do the work, you tune everything out. How do you stop from asking everybody their opinion? Because I find myself doing that. Like I'm texting my friends, I'm texting like my business BFFs, right? Going, so what do you think about this? Like, and I know, I guess there's some good things to it, but it's like, why am I asking? Like, what
Why
else
are
can you
you
do
asking?
instead of asking? Well, I don't, because I want that affirmation. So, like, one of my love languages, right, is like words of affirmation. And
Yeah,
I hate that that's one of my love languages, but it is. So it's like, I love to hear, like, yay, like you're on the right track. Like, I want that. And I don't like that I want that.
yeah. What would happen if like I'm not trying to be all coachy, but I'm curious, like
No, go
what
ahead.
happens? Like what happens when you give yourself that affirmation and you don't seek it from
Oh,
others?
that's good. You know, I don't know. I can't think of a time that I did. And I'm going to go back pretty much like from being a child. I've always have I've done what would make others happy. Like I've always
Mhm.
been what was expected of me. Like there was a time I had like a wild phase, don't get me wrong, where I was like rebellious and all that,
Yeah,
right?
we all
But
do.
for the most part, it was like I've done what I think others would expect. So I don't know. That's a really good question for me to sit in
Yeah,
and figure out because what would I do? And I love what I do now. So I'm not questioning anything that I do. Like I
yeah.
love this. And it's kind of funny because like this podcast, I love doing these podcasts. My mom just recently, she's been watching old videos, all these old videos that my dad passed away last summer. And so she's been watching them all the time now. And she said there was one of me at my grandmother's 80th birthday. I was, I think, 12 at the time, and I was going around with a microphone. My dad had a video camera, the big video camera that was on your
Oh, yeah,
on your shoulder that and I'm interviewing everybody. Like she's like, you were meant to do this from a young age. And it's kind of funny because I laugh about that. So it's like I love this part, like talking to you and all that.
yeah,
But I don't know. That's a great question. And I need to challenge myself to do that.
yeah. One exercise that really helped me. Oh my God, I wish I can credit her. Oh man, but it was not invented by me. um there was this exercise that I did that really helped me. It was like, how can I give myself the appreciation, affection, attention, and there was another A, it's the 4 A's, but it just like, how can you give yourself that appreciation, that affection, that attention if
Yeah.
there was no outside noise? Like if you were on an island and it was just you, yourself, and I, like just you, right? On an island, how would you give yourself the affirmation? And yes, you can be logical, and it's like, I don't know, like what if there's nothing for me to do? It's like, can you hug yourself? Can you, like, cook the coconuts if you were on an island? Whatever. Like, what can you do if no external noise or validation or permission was given from other people, right? Like if you could give those that attention and affection and appreciation to yourself. I know I'm missing one A, but that really changed like how I showed up for myself, because I am someone who for the longest time. And actually, the reason I got into coaching was I've always loved personal growth. And I was always like, I guess you can call it naive in your 20s, where I used to be like, I just want to be better than I was yesterday. And like, I just always loved like just becoming like wiser and more confident, because I was someone who was very shy and I hated the way that I felt I didn't want to be shy. And like, I knew I wasn't shy, but that's what everyone would say about me. Like, oh, she's so shy. And at the time I wanted to be a broadcast journalist. And I hated that people would say things like, oh, like, are you sure you want to do that? You're kind of quiet. You're shy. Do you think you can show up on TV? And I hated that because I was like, no, I'm a storyteller and I love connecting with people. And like, I will learn how to be good on camera. And I did. So like the first courage exposure, I love exposing myself to the thing that I'm afraid of. And I call it like courage, like really exposing yourself, was showing up online for 30 days, specifically showing up on YouTube for 30 days to become more confident in front of the camera. And I did this back in 2012. I think it was like I had one more year of I majored in journalism and TV, and I was like, no, I'm going to prove that I can talk in front of the camera. And like the first few videos, like I'm whispering, I'm so shy and quiet, but by the end of the challenge, and I wish I didn't delete those, like all of them, but I became someone who I did not recognize. Like I was more confident in myself,
Wow.
right? And so yes, it helped when people were like, oh, I love your videos, right? But it really started from like giving myself that attention that I needed. Like, okay, yeah, admitting to myself, I'm not that great on camera, but how could I be better, right? And how can I build my confidence and self-trust? And
Mhm.
every day that I uploaded that video and I posted, like, I'm so thankful for that, I don't know, 21-year-old version of me who did that, because by doing the things and like just giving myself that attention, and then when I did it, when I uploaded, like being thankful to myself, like, I appreciate you, Karla, for doing that, right? You're like, it really showed me how to seek my own validation. And it's not, nowadays, what has also helped me, it gets noisy. Like, I mean, just like when you ask your friends for their opinions, it can be difficult, like to hear their feedback, because sometimes that feedback that people give you, you're like, okay, that's their own projection. That's not who I am, right? So when people would say like, oh,
Yeah.
you're so shy, it's like, maybe you shouldn't, like, if I would have listened to them, like, maybe you shouldn't major in journalism, or maybe you shouldn't start your YouTube channel, I wouldn't be like here with you now, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and then like, I think I mentioned this, so I don't want to, I'm like on the ping pong sometimes, but like in 2020, I went through like a quarter life crisis because I was listening to everyone. It's like, when actually not in 2020, sorry, in 2018. Like in 2018, that's when I started my business. And a lot of people thought that when I was like going through just like depression and feeling lost and confused, it was because of my business. And I was like, oh no, my business is thriving. Like, for it being the first year in my business, I was doing well. But it was because I was listening to people about like my spiritual beliefs, like my religious beliefs, about like dating and situationships I was in, like asking my friend, like, should I continue to text him or talk to him, right? Like, I wasn't listening to myself about any of the things that matter to me, like, my own like spiritual beliefs, my relationships. Like, I was constantly asking people for feedback and their opinions, and then it started getting noisy. And then they started knowing more about me, and I was like, I'm really exposing myself to people. I think it's important to be authentic and honest and vulnerable, but there comes a place where it's like, are you sharing all your baggage to people? And then, like, what are you getting from
Mm.
that? Like, for me, I was like, sometimes I would overshare and I'd be like, oh man, I didn't really need to overshare that. And now I've been exposed, right? And it's okay to be exposed, but when you're going through something, sometimes you need time to listen to yourself, because when our emotions are heavy, like on Saturday we may be feeling like super confused and angry. Especially, and then on Sunday we may be like, oh, I know what I want, right? But then if you ask like 10
Right.
other people, now you're listening to their opinions. So now you have to deal with like their opinions. You have to deal with like their feedback, with their check-ins. And you're like, oh no, I'm fine. Oh, is that what I shared? I must have been like sleepwalking, you know? So like
So true.
I just got tired of that, you know, and I definitely found more peace and confidence when like I trusted myself. And it's also important
Yeah.
to have like 2 or 3 confidants that you could like, you know, talk to or ask for, people that actually want to see
Right.
you win, and then also people that know when they need to like keep you on track. Like, okay, Karla, you're doing it again.
Yeah.
Like, keep you on track. So, anyways, rambled a bit.
No, I get it. I get it. It's funny because there was a time where I've asked, and I was taking like a workshop class with somebody else, and I'm not even sure which workshop, but the homework was to ask certain people, right? Like what you do, what you're good at. Like when they think of you, what do they think of? So I
Mhm.
sent that to like my circle, some friends, my brother, my niece, right? Like people in my family. And some of the answers aligned and some were like, "Wait, what?" It's like where'd you get that? You know? So I'm like, "All right." So it was kind of funny to look at that, right? And see. I mean, I saw where the overlap was, but some of the answers were interesting. So you make a great point. Like it's okay to tune it out and just ask yourself, you know, let yourself
100%.
give that. Yeah, I love
And
that. So
sometimes
let's
people
talk about
share
this.
these Oh, sometimes
Go
people
ahead.
share these things because they do see something in you that you may not, and sometimes it could be positive, but
Yes.
other times it can keep you stuck. Because I know for me,
Mm.
that's why I stayed in my social media management business for 6 years, as like my full-time thing, because when I would work with coaches, they're like, it's working. So like, let's repackage it. Like, let's go from management to like being a social media coach. And I was like, yeah. And then I like did that. That's how I got into coaching. I was like a social media personal brand coach. And then I was like, who told me to get here? Because I never wanted to do this. Like, I want to help women with their like, I don't want to help them with strategy. I want to help them with like their soul, and I want to help them be more confident. Like, when did I start talking about like algorithms and coaching people on that? So yeah, listening sometimes gets you stuck longer, and sometimes you just have to trust
Yeah.
yourself and do it.
Oh, you just spoke right to me. You spoke to me. So let's talk about your course because it's launching this week, which is super exciting. So I know you've touched on it a little bit, but tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I wish I mean, I do have like that, you know, marketing line, but I'm just going to speak from my heart, because this course came from a
Please.
place of like when I was on the edge of my seat with like all the fear, all the emotions, all the guilt, and constantly googling like how to let go of frustration or how to be more courageous, and like me knowing, like me, I was like, you teach this stuff, first off, trust that you know, but it came from just a place of so much noise and like asking people's opinions, and then finally breaking through when I listen to myself. And so this course is called Courage Within. It is for the woman who's done the inner work, but she's in a place right now where she's pivoting, she's in growing pains, she's in a new season, she's ready to like reclaim who she has always been. But like we shared, this, the noise, the opinion sometimes gets in the way. So this course is for women to sit with themselves, reconnect to what they value, to their vision, to the the ideal self, the person that they are already, but they just need to take out all of the fears and the doubt and the overwhelm. And so yeah, it's a course that I've poured a lot into from times of pivoting, like I shared with my business and new seasons of becoming a mom. Um, but it's also inspired by that version of me who was unafraid because she had nothing to lose. And I think we all know that side of ourselves. It could be the wild times in our lives when we're 20 or teenagers, or when everything's going right and we're just like, yes, we're so unafraid, right? um so it's with that person in mind, like how did she do it, right? And it's like, oh, she listened to herself. So how can we use the tools that is in this course to reconnect with that version of self, but also with the 2.0 version of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is what the course is about. It's called Courage Within, and it's about just tapping into the version of yourself that already knows what she wants and who she is, but fear gets in the way sometimes.
I love it. I love it. And I know this can help so many women, whether I'm guessing it's not just for women in business, or is it just for women in business?
No, it's for all women. I help
Okay.
the 9 to 5ers, like I call them 9 to 5, stay-at-home moms, business owners, just
Gotcha.
any woman who wants to step into her courage.
Right. And we can all use that. The tools that I'm sure that we're going to learn in that are going to be valuable for us no matter what part of life we're in. So the link for the course, the link to connect with Karla, they're in the show notes. So just scroll down and check them out. And Karla, thank you so much for coming on today. This was such a wonderful conversation. And I appreciate you taking the time to sit with me and chat.
Thank you, Deanna. This has been such a great conversation. And yeah, I mean, if we learned anything, it's just trusting ourselves and silencing the noise. Like that takes us a long
Mhm.
way. That takes us farther than most.
Amen. Amen. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.